Welcome, Scott. It's so lovely to see you here. And
It's been a little while since we've caught up, Karen.
It absolutely has.
I know, too long.
I'm really glad that I'll be able to have a look at your skin for you today.
You do anything to get me to take my clothes off.
Absolutely.
It's taken all these years, and finally today I'm getting naked for you.
Obviously, you're in a very high risk group for melanoma and skin cancer.
Being a redhead.
Absolutely, and very fair. Tell me a little bit about your history in the sun growing up.
I basically baked myself when I was younger and just spent my time at the ocean, surfing, was a surfaholic, down the south coast in Adelaide at all the great surfing beaches. And I must admit, and I suppose it's something that all young people do, I just really wanted to be brown like everybody else. And all that happened was I got burnt, went red, peeled, and went white.
Absolutely.
and I hated it. So
with your skin type, that's exactly what's going to happen,
but
unfortunately.
I was determined. All my mates did, and it's what the girls liked, and so you wanted to do the thing. And so I just kept on trying to do that, and it just never worked. And I tried the fake tanning thing as well.
Right.
And that just made me look orange.
Yes.
It was an interesting experience.
As it does.
Yes. So I did all that when I was younger and stupid, and of course, back when I was younger, back last century, we were not as informed as we were now. You just did what you did.
That's right.
But I stopped surfing probably around the time of 17 or 18, because that's when I got into radio, and I went into the country and away from the ocean. Cool. And I can still remember the last day that I actually got burnt was when I was 18, and we were playing basketball outside up in the Riverland in South Australia, on the River Murray, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and again everyone was bronzed. We're all, it's a 40-degree day and we're playing basketball, and I got really badly burnt that day, and I had to be on air that night on radio doing the 7 p.m. to midnight shift. And I can remember sitting in the chair upright like this, and I was just burnt to a crisp. And that was the last time I can actually tell you honestly that I remember being in the sun for any particular length of time. That was my lesson. And now I'm sparingly in the sun. I still enjoy it.
Right.
I'd cover up and do all that, but that was the last time I was stupid about it and allowed myself to get burnt. What
the studies have shown is that most people will have most of their damage by the time that they turn 20.
Oh, I'm screwed then, aren't I?
Pretty much so. Your bank account is probably well and truly full. And I talk about sun damage like a bank account where you're always depositing damage. You can never really get rid of it. You can never withdraw it. And you never know when that bank account is going to pay you back with interest, which is exactly what some skin cancers do.
And when I was 18, I ended up seeing my GP. He sent me to a skin specialist, and I lost count at 42. I had 42 moles either burnt off or cut out.
Oh wow, that is incredible.
When I was 18. And it was 3, 4, 5 sessions at this skin specialist in Adelaide. And I'm a bit scarred along here where they've burned and cut out, and I had them cut out from here and on this arm and all over my chest.
Scott, did the specialist believe that these moles looked like they could be changing or turning into melanoma?
My honest answer to that is, back then he wasn't you.
Right.
He didn't have that information. It was just, here's these moles, let's burn them off.
Yeah.
Let's cut them out.
And burning off is probably not the thing that we would do these days, but for moles particularly. And I guess back then they didn't have the same technology that we have. They're not able to look below the skin and see whether these things are changing or becoming suspicious, and they would just remove them. So I guess back then too, we didn't have the same explanations as we do these days for why we're doing anything, the same rationale for why we would want to remove a mole these days. You'd certainly want to know why that's happening and what risk factor the mole is for potentially being a melanoma. Did you have any family history of skin cancer or melanoma in specific?
There's none at all, but my brother Larry, he is in a worse shape than me now.
Right.
He's just that little bit older than me, but just before he and his wife went overseas last year, they came to say goodbye, and then he looked at his watch and said, look, we've got to go, we're flying out tomorrow, but I've got to get another mole cut out today.
Oh no.
So, but he's actually had troublesome moles where obviously something is going on, and he's best without them.
Yeah.
But they've all been on his back.
Right.
So while there isn't a family history of skin cancer or melanoma, he's obviously got something brewing there that could be. Yes. But the family overall is moly.
Right, yeah.
My mum was, my dad was, so there's a family thing there as well.
And that will definitely put your risk factor up. Having the fair skin, blue eyes, having reddish coloured hair, having a lot of moles, unfortunately, that puts you right up there in the high risk category.
So where's the
So
good
I'm
news,
glad
Karen?
that you're here. The good news is that I'm here to have a look at your skin today and to
great.
be able to let you know whether there's anything that looks suspicious.
Yep.
And if there is, then we certainly look at getting you off to see a doctor.
My career highlights so far are definitely the predictions that I made, because they were proved to be true, and you know, most of them were extremely accurate. I'm not perfect, nobody is, but I think the hit rate is incredible. On Sensing Murder, to actually lead, to have absolutely no information about the case and spend the first part of the day figuring out what the case is, and then in every situation here in New Zealand, I actually led the film crew to the location of the murder, which nobody else could do. Some of the things that I've predicted successfully are the planes hitting the World Trade Center.
Key times of danger for the World Trade Center and New York in particular is September, October and November of the year 2001, with a preference on the month of September. Now, how any future terrorist attack could happen is rather unclear. I haven't had a proper feeling about that or dreamt anything that gives me a clear vision, but it's an attack through or from the air. It's like a missile strike or something striking the building from the air.
Princess Diana, unfortunately dying in Paris.
With Princess Diana, I don't feel that she'll reach 40. I just feel that she's going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that she could be involved in an accident or have some kind of accident. I feel in a car. I don't feel it's like out skiing or anything like that. So whether it's connected to Paris or France or something that's, you know, to do with the French.
The Beaumont case was the real reason why I got into Sensing Murder, because I knew the Beaumont Children. They were, for those who don't know, 3 children who went missing from a beach in Adelaide on Australia Day back in the 60s. They've never been found. We were family friends of their family. I knew the kids, they were my friends. And that was the real reason why I wanted to get into Sensing Murder, because I thought I could make a real difference, that I understood the grief that a family could go through. I remember as a teenager, I went to the Beaumont house 10 years after the children disappeared, and there was 3 pairs of shoes lined up at the back door of the house. And I have always wanted to write a book called 3 Pairs of Shoes, because it was a constant reminder they were still waiting for the children to come home, and now it's almost 50 years later and they still haven't been found. But I've got very definite views on that, and was originally brought back into the case by a former major crime detective who's now working as a private investigator and being financed privately by some wealthy people in Adelaide. And we pretty well feel that we know who took the children, where he took them to, and what happened that day. And I actually led the investigator to this guy's house in Glenelg without knowing where he lived or anything, so that was another confirmation. Dead people I see as regular people, but shrouded in a blue light. Like a halo just around them, not all the way around them, but just in a blue light. And sometimes it's like, when I was working on Sensing Murder, it was like the murder victim would actually step out of a fog, and they'd be a real person, real size, regular clothes, but just have the blue light around them. I've been a professional psychic since I was 18, so probably 150, 200 years, a long time. Doing readings is something that just was a natural process. By the time I hit 18 and moved into radio, and there was a lot of people in media that were interested in this kind of thing, a few of them would say, why don't you do readings properly? Why don't you sit down with people? And okay, so it was probably a combination of everything. I guess we all lead ourselves to where we need to be, and a natural thing kicks in where, for all of us, if we're lucky, and listen to what's going on, we'll follow that feeling, that passion. And that just, I think it happened naturally for me. And it's been there ever since.
What we found on your shoulder, on your right shoulder, looks like a little pink blister, and it has a few unusual characteristics.